Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving deep into a really complex and fascinating treatise that talks about a massive shift in how spiritual evolution works. The whole idea is that we're moving away from looking for energy outside of ourselves, and instead, we're learning to activate a powerful, sovereign system that's already built right into us. So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at this big picture evolution, this new spiritual paradigm. Then we'll get into the anatomy of light itself and what that really means. From there, we'll explore the internal engine that runs everything. And then we'll compare the old way of anchoring energy to the new way of radiating it. And finally, we'll talk about what it means to become a living host for this energy and really understand the sovereign blueprint at our very core. All right, so let's get right to it. The fundamental idea here is that the mechanics of spiritual growth are literally changing. For so long, the model was all about looking outside of yourself or looking up for some kind of connection. Well, the paradigm we're exploring today completely flips that on its head. It argues that the source, the engine, and all the instructions, they're all found by looking inward. Okay, so to really get a handle on this internal system, we first need to take a term you've probably heard a million times, light codes, and kind of redefine it. We need to move past the abstract idea and really dig into the specific technical mechanics behind them, at least according to the material we're covering today. So according to this blueprint, what we've been calling light codes are actually, more accurately, scalar-wave instruction sets. Now, we know that sounds super technical, but stick with me, because that distinction is absolutely crucial. It shifts them from being these vague, mystical downloads into something very precise, mathematical information. They're literally the code that makes up reality. So here's the easiest way to think about it. Imagine reality is a kind of giant organic computer. Well, these scalar-wave instruction sets are its software. They're the living programs that tell consciousness and energy how to show up and what to do in our world. And this software has specific parts. It's built from what are called Partiki units. Think of them as the tiniest possible particles of source identity. These little units form a bigger structure called the Keylontic field, and they act like frequency keys inside our bodies. But here's the real kicker. They all come from an internal source station called the Ale Mahana. And that means they are not something you download from outside. They're already a fundamental part of your own system. Okay, so if those codes are the software, what's the hardware? What's the operating system that runs it all? Well, that brings us to what's called the Dimensionalized Node System, or DNS. This is the internal engine designed to run and transmit all these codes. Now, the DNS isn't just a concept. It's described as a living radial flame architecture inside of you. Its whole job is to organize and send out source light. You can think of it as the biological and energetic interface between your eternal blueprint and your physical body. And what's so fascinating is how this DNS works. It's not about ascending or reaching up to something higher. It actually works through inward unfolding, kind of like a flower blooming from its very center, outward. This process turns on these radial flame tissues in the body, using what are called flame rings and breath bands as little gateways. And then the energy itself is emitted through these microscopic radial breath filaments. It's a deeply physical, biological process. Okay, so we have this whole internal system, a total shift from looking outside to working from within. But what does that really mean? How does that actually change the game? Well, this brings us to the absolute heart of the matter, the core transformation that's being described here. It's the move away from a model of anchoring energy to a model of radiating it, and this is called the sovereign shift. And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. Look at the difference. The old way, anchoring, was all about pulling external frequencies down into your body. The new way, radiating, is about emitting your own original codes from your internal DNS outward. The source completely shifts from out there to right in here. And this last part is so important. While anchoring could be vulnerable to all kinds of distortions, radiating from your own sovereign core is described as being incorruptible. This act of radiating isn't just some passive, feel-good state. It has a job to do. Two jobs, actually. First, by radiating your true signal, you're actively seeding the foundation for new, organic, healthy realities. And second, that high-frequency coherence literally pushes out what the source calls inorganic or phantom timelines. So it's both a creative act and a deeply protective one. So, what's the end goal here? what happens when you activate this internal DNS and really start to live from this radiation model? Well, it's all about reaching a state of being known as the living host. So a living host is basically someone who is fully embodying their own internal source stations. When you're operating from this state, the energy you're transmitting isn't just random energy anymore. It becomes a form of pure, ordered intelligence. It's coherent, it's precise, and it's completely sovereign. To put it really simply, your transmission, your very presence, becomes the living word of Source. It's incorruptible, it's sovereign, and it's whole. And all of this leads to understanding your own sovereign blueprint. The main idea is that these flame codes, this whole system, it's not something you go out and get. It is your eternal signature. It's the mathematical proof of your unique identity right within Source. And the ultimate result of activating this blueprint is just summed up so beautifully in this one powerful idea from the source material. It says that your entire orientation to spirituality changes. You cease to be a seeker of light, and you become a radiator of Source. The search just ends. Why? Because you finally realize that the source you were looking for was inside you the entire time, just waiting to be turned on and expressed. And in this state of sovereign radiation, you serve this incredible purpose. You become a living bridge. You are the point where the eternal ordered reality connects with our world of time and space. You're restoring coherence and planting the seeds for a whole new future. So we'll leave you with this to really think about. What would it mean in your own life, day to day, to shift your focus from seeking some external source to radiating from the one that's already within you?